Well, good afternoon, everyone. Matt over at SFREP. Glad you could join me today. And we're going to be doing one of my favorite webinars, which is buying a new computer, because I love technology and computers and all that kind of stuff. So the purpose of this webinar is, we know tax refunds are coming up, end of the year tax spending, that kind of stuff is coming up. So this is to kind of show you what's available out there, what works best, what we recommend as far as computers with working with our software, and just what's kind of what you can expect and what to look for when you're going out and looking for a new computer. So not a long webinar. It really depends on how many questions you guys have, and I definitely encourage you to ask questions. There is a chat associated with this if you're watching it on YouTube. The chat will be available initially over on the right-hand side of the screen. However, down along the bottom of the screen, if you're not very familiar with YouTube, there are going to be some icons in the bottom right. One of them looks like some brackets. If you click on that, it's going to make the video go full screen, which will make it easier for you to see things, but you will lose the chat. So just keep that in mind. There's also an elongated rectangle, and if you click on that, it will put YouTube into theater mode, so that the chat will move down to the bottom, but you'll still have it. If you go to full screen, you're going to lose the chat. So just keep that in mind. But any questions that you have, go ahead and ask them in the chat. Also, if you happen to be watching this after the fact, or if you have some questions later on, or if you're in a store and you're looking at computers and you want to have an unbiased opinion about a particular computer you're looking at, because salespeople are always going to try to sell you the most expensive one, then feel free to email me, training@sfrep.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you are also there in the moment, you can text me directly as well. So I'm not going to put my number up on the screen because it can be harvested. So I'm going to tell it to you. You can text me directly. Now, don't call this number because I'm not going to answer, but you can always text me directly. And it's area code 828-919-9082. And I'll give that to you at the end of this as well, but it's area code 828-919-9082. And I generally answer that any time of day. Just send me a text message. Send me some photos of what you're looking at, and I'll give you my unbiased, honest opinion. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is going to be what we recommend for specs for a new computer. Most of what I'm going to be going over is for laptops, and there's a specific reason for that. Now, you can, of course, go and get a desktop as well. Just keep in mind, if you don't already have it, you're going to have to buy a monitor along with it, so just keep that in mind. However, I'm getting older. My eyes are not what they used to be. You may want to consider getting set up with an actual 4K television that you can bolt to the wall in front of you, maybe a 55-inch. Makes things a whole lot easier to see, especially when you're looking at small type. And all these computers will be able to connect to that television, no problem. There is, and I don't know if I have it here. Let me look real quick. Sometime I forgot to grab it. I don't think I have it handy at the moment, but the reason I generally will recommend laptops is because of the USB-C port that's on the laptops now. So those of you who have a new iPhone, the iPhone 15, or if you have an iPad, or if you have an older, or if you just have a regular Android phone, you may already be familiar with USB-C because that's what they use to charge with. But USB-C is kind of great in that it can deliver a lot of power, but it can also deliver a lot of data and very fast. And so what you have are these small little, and I'll find you one on Amazon here in a little bit, and I'll show you what it is. Anchor makes a great one. And they are small little hubs, basically. You plug into the USB port, then you plug your charger into it so that it can charge your laptop while you're using it. And just by plugging in that one plug, it's going to give you extra monitor ports. It's going to give you extra regular USB-A ports. It's going to give you a card reader for the memory card out of your camera, and a couple other things. So that kind of makes it so that these laptops become desktops when you plug them in. So there, and speed-wise, there's not really that big of a difference between a laptop and a desktop anymore. But we'll go over some desktops as well. So these recommended specifications are for both laptops and desktops. So we'll go over them one at a time here. The first one's going to be your processor. There are two main manufacturers of processors. There's AMD and Intel. Now, we all have heard of Intel. A lot of you may not have heard of AMD. AMD's been making processors just as long as Intel has. And their processors tend to be a little bit cheaper and a little bit faster. And the great thing about the AMD processors, I really kind of like them a lot. So you're going to hear me cheerlead them quite a bit. The great thing about the AMD processors is everything is system on a chip now. So the hard drive controllers, the USB hub controllers, the graphics, all of that is going to be on one single chip, this one processor chip. And the great thing about the AMD processors is their system on a chip graphics are way better than Intel's. So you're just going to get better performance when you're doing fun stuff like maybe doing some light gaming or watching Netflix or whatever. That's going to run a lot smoother and a lot better on the AMD processor. However, the cool thing is AMD and Intel have put their numbering for their processors in parity with each other. So here I've got the AMD Ryzen 5. You've also got the Intel Core i5. So a Ryzen 5 and a Core i5, Ryzen 3, Core i3, Ryzen 7, Core i7, you get the picture. They're all in kind of the like processors have the same numbering scheme now. So what we recommend is a Ryzen 5 or an Intel Core i5. So the way the processors work is that a Ryzen 3 or a Core i3 is aimed at home users who are doing some budgeting, some light browsing, some shopping, maybe watching movies every once in a while. The 5, the Ryzen 5 and the Intel Core i5, that's aimed at business users and power home users. The Ryzen 7 and Core i7 is aimed at power business users and gamers, and then the Core i7 and the Core i9 and the Ryzen 9 are solely aimed at gamers. So obviously get the fastest processor that you feel comfortable affording. But really, our software will run just fine on a Ryzen 5 or a Ryzen 3 or a Core i3, which would be the base kind of lowest one. But I would recommend a Ryzen 5 or a Core i5. Do not, under any circumstances, get one of these, what I call sub-core processors. So don't buy a $200 computer and try to run your business off of it, is what I'm saying. Don't go to Walmart and buy that $180 computer that has a Pentium Silver in it or something like that. If you're going to buy a computer, make sure it says Ryzen or Core i something, okay? If you want to save money, go with the Core i3 or the Ryzen 3, but I would recommend the Core i5 or the Ryzen 5 at the very least. Let's talk about RAM. In the mid-range in the mid-range computer area, and by the way, computer prices have not been really affected by inflation quite that much. If anything, they've actually come down. In the mid-range, which is where I think we're probably going to be playing here, in the mid-range of laptops and desktops, you're going to find 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. And that is more than enough for Appraise-It Pro. So we're looking at RAM and storage. Now remember, don't confuse RAM and storage. RAM is the working space where all the calculations and everything, it's where the computer works on stuff. Storage is like your hard drive space, although they don't really use hard drives anymore, and I'll go over that with you here in a minute. So RAM, 8 gigs of RAM, you might find something on sale that has 16 gigs of RAM, all the better. You can never have too little RAM. So buy as much RAM as you feel comfortable getting. And I would say if it comes down to more RAM or more storage, get more RAM. Okay? Storage is easy to add. All right, so let's talk about that storage. Right here, I've got storage, 256 gigabyte solid state drive SSD. I used to make a distinction when I started doing these webinars between hard drives and solid state drives. I don't really need to make that distinction anymore because everything is now solid state. There was a time where you had these hybrids where you had, oh, look, it's a terabyte of storage on a hard drive, but it has 128 gigs of SSD, of solid state drive for Windows. And the reason they were doing that, hard drives are cheaper storage, but solid state drives are wicked fast. And the price on them has come down so much that you don't see hard drives anymore. Hard drives are really not a thing any longer. Hard drives are spinning, fiddly, mechanical things. They're rather slow. Solid state drives, I would say, have done more in the last probably 5 years Solid state drives have done more to make computers seem and feel much faster and to legit be much faster than probably anything else that's happened to computers in the last 20 years. And all you really need to know is that solid state storage is chip based. There's no moving parts. That's why they call it solid state. It doesn't mean there were vacuum tubes before then. It just means chip based storage. Think of a flash drive, but different. Flash drives are much slower forms of flash storage. Solid state drives are incredibly fast. And it's the difference between your computer that you have right now, if it's older, to get the Windows 10 desktop, it might take you 3-4 minutes. And you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of annoying. You can get from cold boot, from dark and cold, up to using the desktop with a solid state drive in probably 20 seconds, sometimes faster. So it's a huge difference. So just, if you're going to be looking at older computers, stay away from HDD, hard disk drive. You want SSD, solid state drive. All right. Okay. Next is going to be the keyboard. People don't think about the keyboard. Keyboard, you want to go into a store. Don't go buying on Amazon sight unseen. You want to go into a store and actually test out the keyboard, because at the end of the day, appraisers, you guys are typists. You type for a living. You write for a living. So the keyboard is very important. You might be tempted by a smaller computer because you say, hey, this is going to be a lot more portable. Problem is if you go smaller than a 15.6 inch screen on a laptop, you're going to lose what's called the 10 key. And the 10 key is, here, I'll show you. You probably know what it is already, but maybe I can get my keyboard up here so you can see it. It's backwards. Hold on. There you go. So this is the 10 key, the number key that's on the right-hand side. Very important. You want to be able to have that 10 key because you do a lot of number entry. Smaller laptops are not going to have it. So make sure whatever laptop you look at has that 10 key. Because, yeah. So this, just to show you guys, this is my work laptop. It's a Lenovo laptop. I love it. It's great. And the main reason I got it is because I use this when I travel. So I travel quite a bit for SFREP, and I do go to like all the conventions and stuff. So I need a good computer. This computer is great. However, it's a 14-inch laptop, no 10 key. Yeah, there we go. See, now you can see it. So no 10 key. So you always want to make sure that you have that 10 key. Also, try out the keyboard. Make sure that the keys feel good. It's got good key travel. It doesn't feel mushy, and that the keyboard doesn't bow when you're trying to start typing on it. And honestly, make sure it's got a backlit keyboard. I don't know if you guys travel on planes or trains, or if you you want to work at night and kind of, I'm not like millennials and Gen Z. I don't like that overhead light. I like to keep the mood lighting in. So it's really nice when you're working at night to have the backlit keyboard so that you don't have to have the blaring overhead light on. And then finally is going to be connections. USB-C or USB 3.1. This is not as big of a deal anymore because all new computers are going to have this. They're going to have a mixture of USB-A, which USB-A is the classic USB that we've used forever, and then USB-C, which is the smaller reversible connector that your phone uses or your iPad uses, or pretty much everything that has USB delivered power now is using the newer USB-C. I think at this point, if you don't know what a USB-C is, let me know, but I think we all do at this point. The reason you want that USB-C is what I said before. You want to have that ability to be able to have like a hub, basically, that you can plug into your laptop and then be able to power a monitor, power a extra USB ports, things like that. Even if you have a desktop, it should have a USB-C on it. Almost all of them do now. They're usually on the front. You'll want that if you want to charge your phone, if you want to connect your phone up. If you're taking all your photos with your phone, you can connect your phone with the USB-C and be able to transfer your images over nice and fast. USB-C is USB 3.1, but USB 3.1 could also be a USB-A port. And you want the USB-C because you're going to get the faster throughput that way, and you're also going to get more power delivered. So I think a USB-C can do up to, I think the new one that's getting ready to come out is going to do up to 200 watts of power, which is crazy. 200 watts of power at, I think, 20 volts is what it can do. So that's a lot. You can power gaming laptops off that connector. That's kind of crazy. All right, so now what we want to do, and remember, if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them into the chat. What I want to do now is take a look at what's available out there. So I've got Best Buy pulled up here, and I've pre-chosen 2 laptops that I generally recommend. Okay. The first one is, and this is my favorite, and it's currently on sale for $500. This is a Lenovo Yoga. And by the way, I'm kind of partial to Lenovo. HPs are good too. High-end Dells are good. The low-end Dells and the mid-range Dells are not, so I would stay away from them. But the upper-end Dells are nice. HPs are good, especially in the high-end. Their mid-range are okay, I guess. They're not as good as Lenovo. If you've never heard of Lenovo, they're actually based here in North Carolina where I am. I'm in Charlotte. They're based up in the Raleigh area in the Research Triangle Park. And it's a Chinese company, but all of their computer operations are based in the Raleigh area because they bought IBM back in 2005. So they bought IBM's computer division back in 2005, which was based in the RTP, the Research Triangle Park. So that's how they ended up there. Basically, IBM, I was actually working for IBM at the time. They divested themselves of their kind of consumer division, and they went straight for, they're just going to do corporate stuff. So they do like supercomputers and mainframes and stuff like that now. So they got rid of their printer division, which went over and became Lexmark. And I don't even know what Lexmark's doing these days. And then their consumer computer division became Lenovo, or was sold. I don't know if it became Lenovo or if Lenovo bought them, but yeah, Chinese company, Lenovo. They also own Motorola. If you didn't know that, the Motorola telephone division is owned by Lenovo. So they do a lot of stuff. But honestly, they make the best laptops. Make great desktops as well. The Lenovo Yoga here, it's probably my favorite. 16-inch, 15.6 or a 16-inch screen is kind of a good hybrid between being very portable and also not, being big enough for us, our older eyes, to be able to see them. So 16-inch screen, 2-in-1. Whenever you see 2-in-1, what that means is that, actually, here, this is a 2-in-1 Lenovo. So what that means is that, put that down so you can see it. A 2-in-1, you can open it up regular clamshell like you would with any computer, or you can turn it like this and it becomes a tablet. So you can see it even changes orientation there, just like a tablet would. And then when you do that on the back, this becomes disabled. And then, but the thing I always do with it is I have a little external keyboard somewhere. I don't know where it is. I think it's down. Oh, here it is. I have one of these. This is a Logitech USB keyboard. Really feels good to type on. And so I pair that by also tinting my laptop like this, putting it on the desk like this, and it basically becomes almost like a desktop that way. So that's what I do. This right here, you can get it at Best Buy and at Amazon. It is under $30. Highly recommend it. Feels really good to type on. Does not have a tin key. There is a version that does have the tin key, but it's a little bit unwieldy. So I don't usually use it because it's just a lot to carry around. And actually on Amazon got a carrying case for this. It's really good. Okay, so let's go back over here. Lenovo Yoga. So Yoga just means it can go, bend back and become a tablet. And you also get upgraded hinges on there as well. So the hinges, they don't break, which is really nice. This one is, of course, a touchscreen. The cool thing about this is with the Yogas, you get a glass touchscreen. It's not plastic. Ryzen 5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, but what I like here, 512 gigabytes of storage, solid state storage, which for you guys could be something that you really want because of the fact that you guys are going to be, especially if this is going to be your primary computer, not just like a secondary computer, you want to have that extra storage that's going to come with that. So that one's going to be 512 gigs of storage. Now down here, this other one is cheaper at $379, also on sale right now. It's basically a very similar computer. But it is going to have, you're going to make some compromises to get this price. It does have more memory. It's 16 gigs of memory instead of 8. Don't worry about the RAM though, because you can upgrade RAM very easily. So 16 gigs of RAM, same processor. It's actually a slightly stepped down processor. This is the 7535 and this is the 7520, but they're basically the same. But you only have 256 gigs of solid state storage. Really easy to upgrade RAM, not as easy to upgrade your storage unless you just, slap a external flash drive on it or something, which are kind of slow. But whenever you upgrade your storage, you got to reinstall Windows and all your stuff. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I would recommend this one because you can get, you're getting half the RAM, but you can having Best Buy install it for you. Probably going to spend $150, maybe under $200 to double this to 16 gigs of RAM. Not a big deal. And if you are adventurous, it's not hard to upgrade RAM. There's going to be YouTube videos on it. But this one does give you the 0.5 terabyte of storage. So the other compromise you're going to get on the cheaper one down here, it is slightly smaller, 15.6 inch, but it does have it's a touchscreen, but it's going to have like a plastic touchscreen instead of the glass touchscreen that you get up here. The camera, the webcam's not going to be as nice on it. It is going to be more plastic construction, whereas this is all metal. And no backlit keyboard, and it cannot flip around like the Yoga can. So the fact that you get the backlit keyboard and it'll flip around, plus it's a glass screen, this would be my recommendation. But if you want to save some money, this would also be really good as well. But this is going to be I want to replace my desktop with a laptop machine. That's what this one is right here. I love them. Now, if we come on here and we do Ryzen 5 desktop, we'll see what's available here. Now, some of these will not be available at your local Best Buy to buy immediately. You might have to order it. No big deal, though, because they do free shipping. And if you have a problem with Porch Pirates, I would get it delivered to the store, and then you just go pick it up. I have purchased this computer right here for $429 for one of our tech support people. And while the specs are great, 12 gigs of RAM instead of the usual 8, and you get a 0.5 terabyte of storage, and it's, you're still at $429. The thing I didn't love about it was the build quality, the construction, the case. It was very plasticky and was not really well laid out. But it would, spec-wise, good computer. What I would say your better bet would be, a lot of these are going to be gaming computers. You have to kind of watch out for that. You can always tell a gaming computer because there's lots of RGB color lights and stuff like that in it. We'll do this. We'll do Lenovo. I like the Lenovo desktops better than the HP ones. So we'll do Core i5 desktop. You'll see these little mini desktops. They're okay. I would shy away from them because they're not very expandable. You can put additional storage in them and more RAM, but that's about it. You can't put, like if your video card, if videos goes out on it, or if the, I don't know, if like you wanted to put a faster, like if you wanted to upgrade the Wi-Fi to like Wi-Fi 7 or something like that, you can't really do that with this. This is the Idea Center. It's a Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, $450. That's a good price. But you can see where the value is actually going to be over on the laptop side, because on the laptop side, we were under, and it's at economy of scale because desktops are not as popular anymore as the laptops are. So when the laptops become more popular, they drop in price because more people are buying them. So we're at $450 now for a Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512, and you got to buy the screen. Whereas over here, go back to the cart, you're at a touchscreen laptop, 16 inches, Ryzen 5, 8 gigs, 512 for $499. So it's like $50 cheaper, but you got to buy the monitor as well. So the desktops are about the same price as the laptops now, maybe slightly cheaper, but not a lot. Here's a good example of what I told you about IBM. This is a ThinkCenter, and ThinkCenters were IBM's branding. Well, now it's Lenovo ThinkCenter. So they even look, if you look at the picture, you can you'll recognize the typeface and everything for these ThinkCenters. So, and then the ThinkPads, those are also Lenovo now as well. And you can get these same things over on Amazon. You just got to be careful with Amazon. Buying a computer on Amazon, there's a lot of cheap Chinese crap on Amazon, so be careful with that. The other thing that's kind of bad about Amazon is you can't go in there and actually try out the laptop and the keyboard and things like that. So I do recommend either something like Best Buy or going to Staples or Office Depot or someplace like that. You can actually play around with it. So that's pretty much it. Now, if you guys have any questions, let me know. And remember, if you have questions later or if you're just a little bit shy, you can always email me directly, training@sfrep.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you. Of course, if you need immediate assistance, you're going to want to contact our tech support, which is tech@sfrep.com, or you can call them 7 days a week until 8 p.m. usually on the East Coast, 800-644-4051. And one more time, let me give you my telephone number. So if you have any questions while you're actually at your store and you want an unbiased opinion of something, snap a picture, send it to me. It's area code 828-919-9082. 828-919-9082. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We got a whole week ahead of us. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Remember, if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Hopefully you've got a little bit out of this webinar. Really appreciate you showing up. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.